I think even I was a little bit surprised when I saw this news kind of come out, and it really shuts up a lot of people. For me personally, I honestly thought that Microsoft was out there absolutely killing it in terms of being able to go ahead and have like the better backwards compatibility and stuff like that. And it turns out that that's not necessarily the case. And I was a little bit kind of shocked to see exactly what Digital Foundry had to say about this. And again, you see a lot of like the Xbox fan base be pretty upset about it. And I'm sitting here trying to wonder exactly what's going on and how this can happen. And it's just like different approaches. To be honest with you, I think that that's something that a lot of people don't realize is both Microsoft and Sony took extremely different approaches with this. And when it comes to how they're going to accomplish things, they're going to obviously accomplish things completely different than what maybe somebody would expect. So this is definitely some interesting news, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to want to pull up and open up an ear and listen to this, because to me it sounds pretty incredible. So what's up, everybody? Crapgamer here with Crapgamer Reviews, back with another video. Thank you so much for checking it out. I really do appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe. I would appreciate that as well. It helps out the channel, and it means a lot to me personally. If you guys are looking for a way to help out a little crappy rebuilding channel like mine, hey, that's the best way to do it. Thank you guys very much for rocking out with me. Now onto this. So I probably, like many of you, thought that the Xbox Series X or S just really had backwards compatibility on a lockdown with the way that they were able to do things. I mean, I even bought Mass Effect Trilogy on the Xbox Series X because, I was able to get the 120 frames and things like that. And that might not be important to some people, but and I can understand that, because not a lot of people have a TV that can support the 120 frames and stuff like that. I specifically bought a TV that could do that this generation so that I could be able to get the most out of these consoles, and I haven't looked back. So clearly I got the Xbox version. Now the whole reason that's possible isn't because the Xbox Series X is so much more powerful than the PlayStation 5. It just turns out that its backwards compatibility program is kind of centered around the ability to do that was built into the SDK years ago for the original Xbox One, despite the fact that the Xbox One could never achieve those benchmarks, but the thing was there. So it makes it easier to kind of implement from where we're standing right now. And so I really thought that this was something that there was no real choice or anything like that. Oh, just Xbox has the better backwards compatibility solution. So it was interesting because someone on Twitter was kind of poking fun of Sony, saying, cute little Sony, this is the fourth game they've given a frames per second boost to on the PS5. Microsoft and the Series X are at almost 100. Sony dropped the ball on PS5 backwards compatibility. So I guess this person is referring to the Last of Us 2 getting the 60 frames per second boost via backwards compatibility on the PlayStation 5. But John Linneman from Digital Foundry was right there to kind of go out there and set the record straight. He says, does it always need to be a comparison? At least those PS4 titles retained the Pro enhancements. Most frames per second boost titles use a base Xbox One mode, which sucks. So basically that just kind of shut everything up. There's actually enhancements, graphical and things like that stick in there on the PlayStation 5 when they do the backwards compatibility enhancements and stuff like that. So that's something that I think is surprising a lot of people. For me personally, I find it to be quite surprising and quite interesting, to say the least. And I also want to say that I think that the way that Sony has handled theirs is pretty incredible. Like, I'm not knocking the way that Microsoft does it, because theirs works, but it is very interesting to see that, hey, they're basically utilizing the base Xbox One version to be able to get these enhancements out there. And that is a little bit kind of, I think, a little bit frustrating as well, because you're not going to get as good graphically. A lot of times you sacrifice a lot of that stuff to kind of go forward and things like that. So yeah, very interesting to sort of hear that. But gamers in general are going to be sort of, I think, hot and cold on this whole situation, because one of the things that I think still bugs me, regardless of how this regardless of how this kind of turns out, it is a little bit weird that Xbox is super easy to get just via a patch, a 120 frames version of a game, and they've gotten plenty of those, but are those versions 1080p? Are they just the base 900p Xbox One version running at 120 frames? I think that's the big question. And if so, is that like a big trade-off for me personally? Like, I switched between the 4K 60 on Mass Effect to 1440p 120, and I didn't notice anything graphically different, but I did notice a smoother gameplay transition. So it's hard to say exactly what this means for the future or how this kind of will work out or whatever, but it is very interesting, to say the least. And I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot more about some of this stuff as we go ahead, because there's obviously going to be good and bad news as we kind of go along to this stuff. So this is probably just par for the course, to be honest with you, and I think that we're going to have to continue to see how these games come about and stuff like that. Again, PlayStation 5, I think Mark Cerny did a fantastic job with the way that he explained things, and how the games really know how kind of go about a little bit of these ways or whatever, and again, I think that we maybe put a little bit too much faith into our particular brand or whatever when it comes to this type of stuff. I'm sure to many, like the whole 120 frames thing doesn't even matter. Like I said, so few people have a TV capable of that, which if I can recommend, man, the CX OLED, just phenomenal. But yeah, like very interesting, and we're going to continue to see some of this stuff come about where maybe one performs better. But I have noticed that the trend of the Xbox games with the higher performance, it looks like they're going to actually get some of the bad negative side of that is the lack of a picture quality that's on the PlayStation side to begin with. So basically what they're saying here is the PlayStation versions of games are keeping the PS4 Pro enhancements, whereas on the Xbox side they're not keeping like the One X enhancements or anything like that. Now it really just depends on how individuals feel about that, but I find it to be very interesting, to say the least. And I love hearing about how all the people are kind of like just now figuring this out, and they're like, whoa, so Sony really didn't do a bad job with their backwards compatibility. No, they didn't. They just didn't go, and have the ability to quick patch in, 120 frames. They could probably do that, if they wanted to. I don't see why they couldn't. But again, just very interesting to see how that happens and how that's going to kind of change things in the future between Microsoft and Xbox and all this kind of stuff. So very interesting to say the least. We are going to see a lot of interesting things in the future when it comes to this, because clearly if you look at the things that are coming right now, okay, so I'll give you a good example, like Mass Effect Trilogy. That game, believe it or not, there's no native PS5 or Series X version, so that's basically relying completely on backwards compatibility. Same thing with Cyberpunk 2077. Those are strictly backwards compatible versions, and the Xbox One X performed better because that was much more powerful than the PS4 Pro at the time. So yeah, and they even kind of patched that up to both of those to where they kind of went parity. And now we even have something like Biomutant coming out, where Biomutant is actually another instance where it's going to be better on Xbox, simply because it's basically backwards compatibility. There is no native PS5 version of that game. So that basically kind of goes out there and explains exactly why this is. Now, the new games have been a completely different story, where new games have really kind of been very close in terms of everything, frame rate, graphics, all that kind of stuff, except for like the loading times and stuff like that, where that has usually favored what Sony's machine has been bringing to the table. So with that being said, like I said, this is all very interesting and sort of kind of fun to look at and kind of fun to kind of read into. I try not to take too much of it too seriously, but yeah, it is very interesting, and I think both Sony and Microsoft have a lot of things to kind of worry about, but I don't think backwards compatibility is one of them. I think both these companies just went about them differently. Yeah, if you have a TV that's more capable of supporting the 120 frames, but you like the base Xbox One versions of the games, then hey, you're kind of set. Otherwise, I think PlayStation's doing it well, because if you go in and play something like The Last of Us Part 2 or Ghost of Tsushima on a PlayStation 5, that looks like a PlayStation 5 game. I'm not going to lie, and the performance is like a PlayStation 5 game. What I mean by that is just the fluidity of that and the graphics and things like that. Absolutely incredible. Really blows my mind. And just congratulations to them for being able to get that out there and to be able to do such a good job with that. I love it. I think that they've done a fantastic job. I can't wait to see more of these games in the future that are to get enhanced. I know it's quote-unquote old games, but Sony has done some of the best games over the last 3-4 years that I think if you haven't experienced them, the best way to experience them should be on a PS5, and I'm excited by that prospect. So let me know what you guys think. Sound off, rate, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Rack 'em up. Crapgamer out.